So today's topic is important, wherein we will be learning the DevOps project. In DevOps project, what we will be doing is we will be configuring all the tools that we have learned. So first thing is we will be using Terraform to create servers, okay, to create the resources that we'll be needing. Then we'll be using Jenkins to perform the CI/CD operation. So we'll be creating the CI/CD pipeline with the help of Jenkins. Then Jenkins has some prerequisite. So for Jenkins, we'll be needing services like Java, and we'll be needing um, Java is anyways a prerequisite. We'll be setting up Java along with Jenkins. Along with that, we will be using the Maven tool, which is used as a build tool. So whatever code is there, if you want to convert it into an executable file, then for that we will be using a Maven, that is a build tool. We will also be using Docker, wherein um, we will be creating the Docker images. From this, whatever code that we'll be pulling from the GitHub, we will also be using GitHub over here. That code will be pulling, and what we'll be doing is we will be creating the images, and we'll be pushing them to Dockerhub. After that, what we'll be doing, we'll be using Ansible. Ansible will be using as a configuration management tool. From Ansible, what we will do, will SSH into another Kubernetes server. Ansible to Kubernetes server will do the SSH, and we will run the commands. If we want to run the manifest and all, that we'll be doing with the help of Ansible. We will also be using, before Ansible, we'll be using a tool called as Trivy. So Trivy is a simple tool. It is a third-party tool which is used to scan the images. So whatever images that we create on Docker, we will be using Trivy to scan those images. After that, we'll be using Kubernetes. Kubernetes will be using to for deployment. Okay, so we, in order to deploy the resources, we will be using Kubernetes, and we, along with this, we will be using GitHub, right, to push the files and all from a local machine to a central repository. So these are the several tools that we'll be using today, right, from starting from Terraform, Jenkins, Maven, Docker, Trivy, Ansible, Kubernetes, GitHub. So all these tools we have already seen, but now today what we will be seeing is how to integrate these tools with the help of Jenkins. So we already are aware that Jenkins is a CI/CD tool. So using Jenkins, we can perform continuous integration and continuous delivery or deployment. So when we are talking about the CI part, which we'll be creating a pipeline. So what we'll be doing is majorly first of all we'll be storing the code in some central repository. So from our local machine, we'll be pushing the code to GitHub. So I've already, I already have a code on GitHub. So just suppose like we already know how to push the files from local machine to central repository. You can either do that, or you can use GitHub, where you can directly upload the files. So my code is already in GitHub. So from GitHub, what we will do is we will push these files that are there on GitHub, or we will just clone the GitHub inside Jenkins. Now what Jenkins will do is, it will, inside Jenkins we will install multiple tools. Inside the Jenkins server we'll be installing Java, Maven, Docker, Ansible, Trivy, all those tools which we have already learned, those will be installing inside Jenkins. And with the help of Jenkins, what we will do is we will perform the uh, build operation. Right, before build we will be doing a pre-test, or let's say a prior test. After the test is done, we will be doing the build. So what build will do, like we will just convert the code into an executable file. So today we'll be using a Java code, and using Java code, what we'll do is we will convert the Java code into a .jar file. After that, what we'll do is we'll do the post test. After the build is done, also we need to do a test. Okay, so this pre-test is called unit testing. Post-test is called integration testing. After the test is done, what we will do is we will create an image using Docker file, and after that, what we'll do is we will push the image to Dockerhub. So the CI part is very big. Okay, so you can see this is just a summary of steps that I've written, but there will be few more steps that we will be needing to add. So after image is created, it is always better, it is always recommended to test the images for any vulnerabilities. If there are any vulnerabilities in the image, it is always recommended to test the image. So that for that also we will be testing the image. To test the image, we'll be using Trivy tool, and after that we'll be pushing the code, or let's say pushing the image to Dockerhub. Now on the CD part, we this we can cover up later on also in the next session, but today's CI is important. In the CD part, it is very small. What CD does is it will just pull the code from Dockerhub, or sorry, pull the image from Dockerhub. After the image is pulled, it will deploy the image on Kubernetes. Okay, it will deploy the image on Kubernetes, and it will create the containers, right? Kubernetes, it will create the, sorry, pods, my bad. So Kubernetes will create the pods, and from the pods we should be able to access our application. So whatever application that we have, we should be able to access it with the help of Kubernetes pods. So these are the several steps that we will be needing to perform. And before creating any CI/CD pipeline, we will be needing a Jenkins server. So we will be needing an EC2 instance, wherein we will be needing, let me call it as a main server. So inside this main server, we will be installing Jenkins and other tools. So in this main server, we'll be setting up, first of all, we'll be setting up Jenkins. We'll be setting up Maven, which will be used as a build tool. So for Jenkins, the prerequisite is Java. Just remember that. Along with Maven, we will be installing also Docker, so that we can create images. So in the same main server, we will be installing all the tools. Then we will be setting up Ansible also, so that we can just SSH into Kubernetes service, and we will also be setting up Trivy. So Trivy will be setting up as a image scanner tool. It will just scan the images for any vulnerabilities. So this is what the main server will have. Another server that we will be needing is the Kubernetes server. So inside Kubernetes server, we will be installing the Kubernetes application. Inside Kubernetes server, what we will be doing is we can set up, obviously for Kubernetes the prerequisite is Docker, and along with that we will be needing to set up Minikube, and we can set kubectl. So these three um, tools will be needing to set up in Kubernetes server. So this setting up the Kubernetes server, what we will do is we'll do it now only, but later on the CD part we will do it later on. So the main part, that is the CI part, will be covering today. So for that, what we will do is we will use Terraform. So we will be needing to create these two servers, and along with that we will be needing the different tools that needs to be installed in the main server. So for this, we can use Kubernetes code, and we can create the entire main server along with the tools. So for that, we have this Kubernetes code that I've already written, and let me explain this to you. This is a simple code of creating an EC2 instance, and before creating an EC2 instance, we will also be needing to create the security group. So what are we doing over here? Let me do one thing. Let me just copy and paste this code in some notepad. It will be easy to zoom out and zoom in. So this is my Terraform code, and let me explain to you what this code is doing. So in the first step, what we will do is we will create the security group for Jenkins server, right? So for Jenkins server, we will be needing a security group. So for that, what we will do is we will create a security group which will be related to Jenkins server. So inside this, you are already aware, we obviously need SSH, HTTP, HTTPS. Along with that, Jenkins needs a port number 8080. Now in the previous session, we have seen how to install and configure Jenkins in Windows, that we have already seen. So today we will see how to configure Jenkins using EC2 instance, or let's say Amazon Linux machine. Now this is a simple code that is resource block, and inside this we have defined the security group. That this is the service name and this is the local name. This is user defined. This can be anything. This is obviously user defined name. Here we will be just naming the security group. We will be giving the description and we will be allowing the all the inbound rules. So here I have allowed port number 22. Now as of now I have given it access to all. Okay, just for practical purpose, so that we can understand, just for testing purpose. In real time, we will be entering the required IP that we need to allow to SSH. In the second block, we are allowing port number 80, which is the HTTP port. Then port number 443, which is the HTTPS port. Then port number 80, this is the Jenkins port. I have not added the description over here, so just to make this code compact. Then we have added outbound roles, which is access to everything. Inside outbound role, we will be allowing everything. So this is the security group that I've created for Jenkins. Now in the second step, what we will be doing is we will be creating the Jenkins EC2 instance. Now so in order to I should be able to SSH inside this Jenkins. For that I will be needing a PEM key. So what I have done, I have already created a PEM key from the EC2 console. I have downloaded the PEM key and I have copied that PEM key inside my code. Here you can see this is my PEM key. This was my existing key. I simply created a folder, and inside this I have created this PEM key. So this you can see, this is my PEM key using which I will be able to SSH inside my EC2 instance. So here I have written the code for Jenkins EC2 instance. I have used the resource block wherein we can create easy AWS instance, and I have given the instance name. You can give my EC2 instance or you can use my Jenkins instance, that is up to you. Here I have used Amazon Linux machine and I have used instance type as T2 micro. Now this here I'm calling the VPC security group. So this is the security group I have already created. This I am calling it here. This is how I have integrated the security group inside my EC2 code. Inside the key name I have mentioned the key name so that it can use that key name and create an EC2 instance, right? So this we have already seen in Terraform, how to use your key and create an EC2 instance. Along with that, I have used a block for EBS. So since we will be installing so many tools, we have a option, we have a limit of 30 GB, right? By default, Linux uses 8 GB. So I can just increase it up to 30 GB. I have a limit of free tier until up to 30 GB is allowed. So what I will do is, I will create a I will, along with this EC2 instance, I will use an EBS volume which will be giving me a 30 GB of storage. Then I've given the server name, that is the Jenkins server name over here. Now I've used user data. Now in Terraform previously we have seen how to use remote execution, how to remote exec and install, how to do SSH and install code, right? That we have already seen. Now this is the another method wherein you can use user data and you can install the script that you will be needing, the tools, what all tools you will be needing, everything you can just put it over here, and your Jenkins server will be created with all these tools pre-installed. So the moment your Jenkins server is initialized, all these tools will get installed by default. So we will be starting with updating the machine, then installing the Git. So this we have already provided, right? We have already aware how to install Git and all. So for Maven, I have already given you reference from where I have taken the reference, that is amazon.com. From that I have taken the steps and I've just pasted the step required for Maven. Along with that, we will be setting up Jenkins as well. So for Jenkins, I have given a reference. This is the Jenkins official website. From this, we have taken out pull out the steps which are required to install Jenkins. So these are the steps wherein using which the Jenkins will be installed. After that, we have used this Docker. So this Docker, we are already aware how to install Docker. That reference you can take from the Docker website. And another tool that we have taken is the Trivy. Now Trivy is a image scanning tool. It is used to scan the images. one more part I just want to make some changes here. This one line is related to Docker. This one. Let me just cut it and paste it here. So what happens is the moment you install Docker, you will start running the commands being a uh, normal user, right? So I'll just tell you what this command will do. Whenever we install anything, whenever we install um, tools using Terraform, what happens is this everything will be run, or your machines will be running as a normal user only. So to allow this normal user to to run Docker commands, this is the command that we need to mention over here. Or else what we'll do, we will get permission denied error. Okay, so to avoid this error, we need to run this command. That's it. Then I mentioned how to install Trivy. So the reference also I've given here. So github.com Trivy. Using this you can get the reference. So all the references also I've mentioned from where you can install the tools. So this is a simple code that we have written. It looks very big, but it is very simple. First we have created a security group. Then we have created an EC2 instance. And after that what I am doing is I'm just pulling out the public IP and private IP of the Jenkins server, so that I can easily do a SSH, right? Like when we are um, using MOBA XTERM tool, we will be needing EC2 at the rate public IP, right? So rather than me going to AWS console and pulling out the IP addresses from there, I'm just taking an output of the public IP of EC2 instance over here. So I am taking both public IP and private IP as an output, so that it will easily be displayed in my Terraform console. Okay, and I don't need to log in inside my AWS account and pull out the IP addresses. So this is one code, which is Terraform code, which is related to Jenkins, and inside Jenkins, or rather let me call it as a main server. Rather than calling it as a Jenkins server, this is my main server, wherein the inside the main server I'm creating the security group, and I'm installing many other tools like Docker, Ansible, and Trivy, Maven, and all. So Maven will be using it as a build tool, right? Here Ansible code is not mentioned, so let me add that code as well. Let me pull out the code of Ansible, so that in one go we can install Ansible as well. This I'll copy and I'll just paste it inside my main server. Ansible is not here. So let me just add Ansible below. See, you can also do like first create the normal server and then install these tools. That is also up to you. There are multiple ways to install the tools, right? You can either first create the server, then create a shell script file, then put all these commands, then run that shell script file. That is one way. Or while the instance is created, you can being created, you can just from the AWS console, you can paste all these tools inside the user data, and the instance will get created with along with these tools get by pre-installed. The third way, this is using Terraform code. In that also there are two methods. Either you can use user data or you can use remote-exec. So remote-exec is used to run the commands on some remote machine, right? From your local machine, if you want to do SSH inside your EC2 instance and run commands, that we have already seen inside Terraform. This user data was not there, which I did not tell you inside Terraform. This I am just mentioning so that this user data block will also get covered. So this user data is mentioned inside EC2 only. So what we are doing is we are installing Git, we are installing Maven, Jenkins, Docker, Trivy, Ansible inside a single server only. And we are just pulling out the output of the EC2 instances over here. So this one code is done. The second code is very simple. We are just creating a Kubernetes server. So for Kubernetes, generally what all ports are required: 22, 80, 443, 6443, 8001. These many ports are required for Kubernetes. And this is server 2, and these all ports I have allowed inside this security group. You can see these are the ports which I have allowed inside the security group. Now inside steps 2, what I will do is I same key I will use. Okay, in the same key I will use, and I will create an Kubernetes server. Here what I have done is I will be, let me just rename this stuff. I will be taking the Amazon Linux ME, but you remember Kubernetes needs T2 medium. You cannot use T2 micro. So instead of using T2 micro, I have used T2 medium because it requires 2 core CPU and 4 GB RAM. That is what the requirement is. And same, the VPC I have integrated here. What is VPC group ID? VPC security group I have added here. Key name I have added here. And also I will be needing 30 GB of EBS. That also I have added. Even if you don't allow this, that's okay, but Kubernetes it pulls many images and all. It will be needing some space, so for that I will be taking 30 GB. Tags I will be giving the name as Kubernetes server, and here it will output the server IP, Kubernetes server IP, and the private IP. Both I will pull out from over here. So this is a very simple tool. Now after the Kubernetes install, we will install after the Kubernetes is created, we will install the tools, like we will install Docker, we will install Minikube and kubectl. Now you can use user data also. You can create Kubernetes, but when I was doing the testing, that was not happening. The server was getting created, but the user data was not getting applied. So for that, what I think is, like, we can just install that services after the Kubernetes server is created. So this is the code of creating Kubernetes server. So this will be another server. This will be a different server wherein we will be creating the Kubernetes along with the required Docker and Minikube and kubectl tools as well. Well, let me just correct the code here. Now you can see Terraform is so much helpful. So rather than me continuously logging in into AWS console and doing so many stuff, this will take a lot of time. I just need to write this code once, and the moment I apply, I can just reuse it again and again. I can destroy again, I can apply again, I can destroy, I can give this code to you. You can apply this code in your machine, you can create resources. So what happens is, the code is reusable. Terraform modules, Terraform templates, they are reusable. You can simply just share it with your team, and you can create different resources. So this is how Terraform is so much beneficial. Okay, it will keep on you can just reuse the code, and you can create resources with the help of the code. So now what we will do next is, let me check this. One more thing, inside the provider file, I have just defined the version, AWS version, and the region. So my region I have considered North Virginia only. If you want to create it in different region, you can do that. But here, just remember, if you are creating in a different region, the AMI ID will change. Every region will have different AMI IDs. Okay, so the AMI ID is not same for all regions. So Amazon Linux 2 in North Virginia will have a different ID. In Mumbai, it will have a different AMI ID. So just take care of that. Other things will remain as is. Only this AMI ID will change. So anyways, if you while you are practicing, you can just consider North Virginia only. So it will be easy for you guys also to write the code and all. Next thing what I've done is I've pasted the PEM key over here, so that whenever we are calling that key should be present in your location where your code is stored, right? So this we have already done, and these files you can just ignore. These are just configuration files that I have stored it here. This we will be using later on. Now you can see, just by doing running the commands terraform init and terraform apply, we can simply create the servers. So what we will do is, first we will do is terraform init for initialization. It will check if there are any bugs or errors in the code, it will just notify us. So it is installing. So let it get initialized. It will take some time, and we'll wait till then. The moment Terraform is initialized, you can simply apply the code, and our servers will get created as per whatever options that we have specified. So my Jenkins server will get created with 30 GB of storage, and the tools that are there, those tools will also get installed. Okay, so that thing will be done. Now what happens is, if you run Terraform init, this file folder gets created, right? This is a hidden folder. Inside this folder, AWS plugins will get installed. So it is installing this AWS plugin inside that folder. After that, Terraform state file, Terraform state backup file, Terraform version log file will get created. So that AWS version, that is 5.35 version, that should get locked. So for that, this log Terraform log.html file will also get created. Now what we will do is, we have already initialized Terraform, wherein we have got this Terraform log and Terraform plugins. They have been installed in the backend. Now what we will do is, we will hit Terraform apply hyphen auto approve, so that Terraform will get applied. So now this Terraform, once Terraform, if there are any errors, it will just show us if there are any errors. And also you can see in the backend now, the state file and the Terraform state file, Terraform state log file also has been created. Now here it is mentioning some error, that on server 2, that is Kubernetes server, line number 73, there is some error. So we'll go here, we'll just jump to line number 73, and we will just resolve this error. So we have used my security group number 2, but here we have defined as 3, so that we have corrected. Now we will just apply again, and again if there are any errors, it will notify us, or it will create the resources. So don't forget to paste your pem key over here. Okay, so you may be already having a pem key, so that pem key, you just pull it here and just use the pem key name here. So you can see now that instances are getting created. So we'll wait for some time. Now if you're trying to create Jenkins, like from the AWS console, let me tell you one thing. Just remember one thing. If you're trying to install Jenkins requires Java. So for that, what you do is, where it is there, here you can see this code. You can just copy, and you can install Jenkins like this. And one more thing, Jenkins requires port number 8080. So if you're installing Jenkins from the AWS console, just allow port number, additionally allow port number 8080, and just use this script, this one. So this will just, you can simply start using Jenkins from the AWS console. Now you can see here, sorry, you can see here in the output, I have got the IP addresses of the servers. Now Jenkins private IP is this. What I will do is, I'll just copy it, and I will just save it, which later on it will be useful for me. So here what I have done is, I will just save no, and I will just store the IP addresses. So now this will be helpful for me later on. Okay, Now, how to pull out the Jenkins initial password? So this is not the password this was previously used. Now what I will be needing is I will be needing the Jenkins initial password. So from where we can get this. So for that what we need to do is we need to log in inside Jenkins. Just copy this public IP, go to MobaXterm. Now since we are using Amazon Linux 2, the username is ec2-user @public IP. So just SSH ec2-user @public IP and just pull out the key. What is the key? This is my key. I'll just hit OK. So now I will go inside my, I will do SSH inside my Jenkins server, or let me call it as a main server, because not only Jenkins, we have other tools also installed over here. On one more thing, what I will do, I'll do go SSH inside this Kubernetes server also. So sorry, SSH session SSH ec2-user IP address followed by the private key. That's it. So now I am inside my Kubernetes server. So I have my main server, I have my Kubernetes server. Now this is my Jenkins main server. Now if you want to get the, or let me just show you. Now this is your Jenkins public IP. Just copy it, go to your browser and paste that IP, public IP followed by :8080. This is the port which Jenkins uses. Now it is saying that the site can't be reached, because the reason why, because my instances are still in the initializing state. So what we will do is we will just go to North Virginia, we will go to instances, and what we'll do, we'll hit refresh. I'll just close this thing. Now you can see here, I will just go to dashboard and I'll just select the running instances. Now you can see I have two instances have been created. One is Jenkins, the another is Kubernetes. Okay, now I think there is some issue. What we'll do is we'll go inside this server and we'll check for Jenkins version. Now it is saying that Jenkins is not found. I think Jenkins did not get installed via this user data. We'll check why. We'll go to launch instance, actions, monitor, troubleshoot, instance settings. Okay, security. Edit the user data. Now somewhere this, I think this is not getting installed. Okay, we'll do one thing. User data has been copied, but it has not got set up. rather than this, what we'll do is we will use the remote-exec command, and we will install these stuff. Only the Maven part we need to install it separately. Just copy this Maven script. Okay, I'll just save it here. Now somewhere sometimes the user data doesn't work. If that doesn't work, what we will do is we will use the remote exec command, and we'll just remove this off. If you want to check the command, we can just go to test, copy this over here, and we will just end it somewhere at the bottom. Now since that user data command was not working, what we will do is we will install this using the remote exec. So for that, what I have done is I have established the SSH connection, and I will start running the commands. To run the commands have to be inside inverted commas followed separated by comma. So what we are doing is we are using this remote exec. We will be doing SSH inside our server. Then we will be installing these different tools. Sometimes that user data works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why that thing happens. I'll quickly just add the commas and inverted commas. Let me not worry about the syntax because that will take a lot of time. We can easily correct the format with the help of Terraform fmt command that can also be used. So if you want to correct this format, just run terra just run terraform fmt and the format will get corrected. So now the format is okay. Now what we will do is we will just run terraform. First let me clear the screen. Terraform apply hyphen auto approve. Now what this will do is we have already installed the servers and all. It will go inside the server and it will install the stuff which has not been installed. So that user data will get removed and user data has been changed. Let's see. Now let's hit refresh. We'll do one thing. We'll destroy and apply that terraform destroy hyphen auto approve. We'll destroy all the resources. It is always better to use a remote exec. I just thought of using user data so that you guys can understand how to use user data, but I don't know why sometimes that user data doesn't work. It will be stored in the EC2 instance. It will get stored in the EC2 instance, but it won't get installed. So let us wait for some time until it gets destroyed. And now what we will do is we will delete these state files also, so that Terraform will think that it is a altogether new stuff. Okay. Now we'll do the clear screen and Terraform apply hyphen auto approve. What happens when you delete your state file? So if you delete your state file, then Terraform will think that nothing has been created and it will recreate the resources. So that is what will happen if you delete your state file. So state file is responsible to it will just tell you what is the current state, right? So if you delete the current state, what will happen? It will think that currently nothing has been created, and it will recreate all the resources. So uh, this is what happens if you delete your state file. So let's say I've created 10 instances, then I've deleted the state file, then again 10 instances will get created. Totally 20 instances will get created. So it is always recommended not to delete your state file. That is the reason why state file is generally stored inside in some remote location like S3 bucket and all. So that we have already seen in Terraform how to store your remote state file in S3. because what will happen is if you have stored it locally, then easily you can lose it from your machine. Now you can see just because I've used this local remote exec, these commands are getting executed inside my machine. So sometimes that user data doesn't work. Okay, so don't worry. Now Maven, additionally we need to install that. We will install in 2 minutes. That won't take much time. So this Maven script, I have pasted it here. This we need to install separately. So here I have already provided you with the text file in which I will be mentioning what all tools we need to install inside Jenkins server. So this Maven part we need to install separately. That's it. Because there is one dollar symbol that doesn't get supported inside this local remote exec command. This stuff we need to install separately. I'll put it at the top. This we will be using remote exec command. Why are we installing Maven separately? Also because Java, different versions of Java will also be present. So we need to manually select the version. So for that, you cannot use remote exec. So what we'll do, we'll just install this part separately. Now you can see everything has been installed. I'll just copy this part also. So when you are using remote exec, don't forget to use this inverted commas and comma. Okay, now let's jump back to our Terraform code. So let me just maximize this. Here you can see this is my output of my servers. Let me just copy it and just save it for few further reference. So now you can see this is my Jenkins public IP. Let me go to my EC2 instance and check if the Jenkins server is initialized or not. So you can see this. You can see this 2x2 checks have been passed. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go to this public IP followed by the port number. So Jenkins uses port number 8080. So now you can see here it is the Jenkins has started. Now it is telling you to unlock Jenkins. How to unlock Jenkins? It is using telling that the initial password will be stored in this location. Copy it. Go to your mobile XTerm. Sorry, now this won't work. We will just log in inside Jenkins server now. So this is my public IP of Jenkins server, ec2 ec2-user @ public IP. So this is my Jenkins server. Along with that, I will also log in inside my Kubernetes server. later on I will be needing it. So go inside session SSH ec2 hyphen user at the rate public IP. So now I am inside my Kubernetes server. So this is my Jenkins server. Now what to, in order to unlock this password, to get the password, just type cat and read this file. Now it is saying permission denied. So just type sudo and copy this password, paste it and hit continue. Now just install the suggested plugins. So the important plugins we will be needing in Jenkins. While the plugins are getting installed, what we will do, we will use Ansible to uh, to do the passwordless connection between the Kubernetes server and the Jenkins server. So for that, what we will do is, first let me clear. Now first let me become a root user, and then let me set password to ec2 hyphen user. So ec2 user only I will be using as an Ansible user. Okay, hit enter, just set a password. Now password is already set. Now what I will do is go inside SSH configuration file etc sshd underscore config. So this is the sshd configuration. Inside this, what I will do is I will enable the root login and I will also allow password authentication. This is done. Escape colon wq. So what we have done is, now this is the Ansible stuff, right? What I want is, from this Jenkins server I should be able to do SSH inside Kubernetes server. Now what I will do is I will just hit restart SSH service SSHD restart. So now the service SSD has been restarted. Now again what I will do is, from this EC2 user uh, I will run SSH hyphen keygen. There will be the instance keys that I will be copying from this Jenkins server to Kubernetes server. What I will do is SSH hyphen copy hyphen ID EC2 hyphen user at the rate followed by the Kubernetes public IP. So this is the public IP of Kubernetes. I have already saved it here. Sorry, for a private IP of Kubernetes server. Let me just copy it and paste it. Enter. It will ask, are you sure? Just hit yes and enter the password of your Kubernetes EC2 user, and that's it. Now let me just clear the screen. Now you can see here I am already inside my Jenkins server and this is my Kubernetes server. Now let me do one thing. SSH, I will SSH from Jenkins to Kubernetes using this command. SSH from Jenkins server to EC2 at the rate Kubernetes server. Now you can see this is my Jenkins server IP address. This is my Kubernetes server IP address. Hit enter. Now you can see from my Jenkins server, I am now inside my Kubernetes server. You can see, like, from my Jenkins server, I am inside my Kubernetes server. Now you can run whatever commands that you run inside your Jenkins server. That is what will get executed here, because I am already inside my Kubernetes server. Now here what we will do, we will install few packages. What all packages we will be installing? We will be installing Docker, because Docker is a prerequisite for Kubernetes. We will install Minikube and we will install kubectl. This is what is required, right? So what we will do is we will quickly go. I have just provided the tools that we need to install, right? So first thing what we'll do is we'll create a file. Before that, escape colon q, enter. Before that, I need to be a root user. Let me become a root user. Let me create a file vi docker.bash, and here what I will do is I'll just paste the commands related to Docker. Escape colon wq, hit enter. Change mode a plus x. This we are already aware. This is the shell scripting part, right? So I'm covering the shell scripting also over here. Now you can see Docker is getting installed. So we'll wait. So now you can see from the Jenkins server, I have gone inside my Kubernetes server via SSH, and I'm installing the commands inside the Kubernetes server. So this is not my Jenkins server, this is my Kubernetes server. So here I'm just showing you how to use Ansible. This is how we can use Ansible. Now let me just clear the screen. Now second part what we'll do, we'll install Minikube. So just copy the file name vi minikube.bash, copy these steps, paste it, escape colon wq, enter, and just change the mod minikube.bash. Just run this file. So you can see now Minikube is also getting installed. So the Jenkins plugins are getting installed in the backend. Meanwhile, what we are doing is we are configuring Ansible, and we are running the Kubernetes tools and all inside Kubernetes server. So if you want to just cross check 318468, 318468, this is how I'm inside my Kubernetes server only. So this Minikube installation will get completed. After that, what we'll do, we will install kubectl. So this is how what we are doing is we are also practicing how to use Ansible, right? We are also running the shell script. We have created a shell script. This is how we will be creating the shell scripts, and we will be changing the mod, and we will be running the shell script. So we have also seen how to install Jenkins via the Terraform, right? Using the remote-exec, we are installing Jenkins. Via the shell script also we are installing the Kubernetes. So I have done it in different ways so that we can understand how to install tools in different ways. Some that user data was not working, and that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Now Minikube is installed. What we'll do is we'll install Kubernetes. Let me clear the screen. Paste all these commands, and this this is out I've taken from the official website of Kubernetes only. Don't worry, I forgot to mention the reference here, but later on I'll edit this file along with the references also. No, I've mentioned the reference here. Yes, here yeah, I've mentioned the reference. You can see Minikube. This is the site. This is the Docker Kubernetes website. Docker I have not mentioned. Okay. So now we'll hit enter, and you can see Kubernetes is getting installed. Now you can see Kubernetes version is 1.29. If I just run kubectl get pods -a, you should be able to see that Kubernetes has been installed. Now what we will do is we will exit from this Kubernetes server, and now we are inside our Jenkins server. You can see the IP has changed. If you want to check, you can just check kubectl get pods -a. See here, from Jenkins we have gone inside Kubernetes and we have installed Kubernetes. So this is how we use Ansible, right? Now here we are inside Jenkins server. Here we are inside Kubernetes server. Now we have come back to our Jenkins server. Now let's jump back to whether our plugins are installed. Yes, our Jenkins plugins are installed. Now just type the username, type your password, type your full name, type your mail ID, and just save and continue. and just save and finish. Now you can see that your Jenkins is ready. Now we'll start using Jenkins. Now our Terraform stuff is done. Okay, so using Terraform, we have created servers, we have outputted the public IPs, private IPs. So the Terraform part is now done. So you can just go and close this. Terraform part is completed. So now we are inside our Jenkins server. We'll just zoom out, and we are already aware of this dashboard. Before starting the Jenkins server, we will do something. Um, we will configure some credentials. Now what happens is, whenever we are using Jenkins or whenever we are running a pipeline, generally where we'll be needing the Kubernetes, where we will be needing the credentials are related to the Dockerhub. So we are already using Dockerhub, right? And Dockerhub we will be using, and we will be storing our password and all. Now if you want to log in inside Dockerhub, the command is, you are already aware, docker login -u followed by the username, whatever is username, -b, the password. Now if I just use this command, what will happen is, I will expose my password. Okay, I will expose my password. So I already told you, right? Jenkins has a credentials, right? There is a credential store where you can safely store your credentials, and you can use it in your pipeline script. Okay, you can use it in your pipeline script. So for that, what we will do is, we will go to manage Jenkins, and we will you know we will store our credentials over here. So I'll just go to credentials, just go to systems and global credentials, and then after that only you will be able to add the credentials. So what we'll do, we will start adding the credentials. I'll just add a credential here. Now what credential do I want to add? I want to add username with password. So this is for Dockerhub. Okay, for that, what I will do is, I will use username with password. What is my Docker username? It is Nasir Patel. This is my Dockerhub username. If you want, you can treat it as secret also. It will get encrypted. You can do that. So what is my password? Dockerhub password. This I will store it here. So this is how you can store your secrets in Jenkins, right? And what ID do you want to do? Now I have already written a script for this, so that ID only I'll use it here. So now Terraform files is completed. We'll go to DevOps files, and here if you want to go inside VS Code, just right click. You will get an option called as Open with VS Code. Now for me it is not shown here. You can see it is not shown here. For that, what you do, just type cmd in the address bar. It will open command prompt, and here you just type code dot. It will open your VS Code from this location. That is another way, or you can just go and open folder. That is up to you. You can also go open folder and just select the folder that you want to open, like this. Select the folder, and this will also open. Now what I have done is, I have written a CI pipeline. Let me just show you what I have done is, before that, what I will do is, I'll just store my GitHub Dockerhub credentials inside Jenkins. So for Dockerhub credentials, what I have done is, when I'll be pushing the image, I will be using hub creds. This is the ID that I've given. I'll just go back to Jenkins, and I'll paste it inside the ID. So this is all user defined, but since I've already used that, I will use it over here. Now what is the description? My Dockerhub username and password. Just hit and create. Okay, so now what we have done is, we have added the Dockerhub credentials over here. So you can see here, my Dockerhub username and password is created. Second thing what we'll be doing is, we will be storing the uh, we will store the EC2 PEM key. Okay, let's do that. How to do that? Go to add credentials, just select here secret file, and sorry, secret text is we can select, or what we'll do is we'll use SSH username with private key. This we will do. Now what is the ID? Let's say let me call it as EC2 underscore user. You can give any ID. Let's say if I use that ID somewhere in CD, I've used that ID. This is the ID I've given. Same ID I'll use it here. Now what is the description? This is my AWS EC2 username and password. Now since we are using Amazon Linux, we will be using username as EC2-user. If you are using Ubuntu, the username will be Ubuntu, right? This username will be as per the operating system. So since we are using Amazon Linux 2, the username will be EC2-user. If you are using Ubuntu, it will be Ubuntu. It will username will be only Ubuntu. If you want, you can also treat this as secret. And what about the key? Here just click on this enter directly and just click on add. Now here you need to paste your key. So what I will do is I'll just go to, let me just close all these files. I'll go to my Terraform files. Here I had saved my PEM key, right? I'll just open it with Visual Studio Code. It will display my PEM key. Copy this key and just paste it here. This is how you can save your username and the PEM key inside Jenkins, right? So Jenkins has several advantages. You can store your credentials and you can use it in your pipeline script. Okay, you can use it inside your pipeline script. Now what I've done is I've stored the EC2 username at the and the password also. Now just let me just go through that CI pipeline, whether I'll be needing any other credentials. So whatever credentials that are there, we will just configure it before only. Now since I'm using a public repository, I am not adding the GitHub credentials, but if you want to that also you can do. So for that I'll just show you that also. It will be useful for you. Before that, what you do, go to GitHub. After you log into your GitHub, just click on the top right hand corner, go to settings. I'm just showing you how to um, add the GitHub credentials also. Just go to developer settings, go to personal access tokens, classic tokens, and just create a or generate a new token. Generate a classic token only. Now it is asking for password. What is my password now? Okay, what is the node? So let's say this is my Docker, or let's say this is my GitHub Docker credentials. You cannot use GitHub password. We are already aware we cannot use GitHub password. Instead, GitHub provides us with a token that we will be using it. So what is the expiration? I'll just keep it for 7 days. I'm just showing you how to use your GitHub password. If you are using your private repository, you will be needing to store your GitHub password also. So take whatever is applicable. As of now, I'll take everything. I want all the control. So these are the controls. If you want notifications, if you want user access, if you want to delete repo, everything can be done from Jenkins. So this is like allowing Jenkins to do everything from GitHub. So generate a token, and this token will be visible for one time. So just copy it, and you can store it somewhere, or what you can do is you can just store it here in some notepad. This is like 7 days temporary token, or else you can just set the expiration to never. The expiration should never get expired. So just copy this token, go back to your Jenkins, and here just add credentials. Now what is this? It is a secret text. Okay, so just add here, this is your secret. What is the ID? This is like GitHub, or let's say GitHub underscore token. This is, let's say, my GitHub token. So whenever if you are using private repository, GitHub private repository, you will be needing this GitHub token. This is how you can store your GitHub token, right? So what we have done is we have stored our Dockerhub username and password. We have also stored our PEM key along with the username. This is our PEM key, SSH key, and we have also stored our GitHub token. So this token I have already shown you how to generate the token. Okay, so just follow the same procedure and you can just save your token. So what all, if there are any other credentials, you can store them using this manage Jenkins and credentials and system and global credentials. Now let's jump back to dashboard. And what we will do is now we will create the continuous integration pipeline. So just click on new item and here type, or else what we'll do, okay, just go to dashboard, new item, and here we will write the name as the CI pipeline. Select pipeline and just click on OK. No need to configure anything else. This is sufficient. Now here just go down and here you can paste your pipeline script. Now this is very small. Okay, you won't be able to easily read it. That is the reason why I will be using a VS. I'll be writing the code in VS Code. So let me just go back here, and I had already written this Jenkins pipeline. Let me just copy it and I'll just explain you what this means. Now inside CI we are already aware that this is continuous integration. What will happen is um, it will it will build, it will test, and then it will create an executable file and it will store it inside some repository. Here we are using Dockerhub repository. You can also use ECR, which is provided by AWS. AWS provides a repository called as ECR. You can also store your images in ECR. But since Docker is generic, you can use it for AWS, Azure, or anything. We will be storing it in Dockerhub, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to create a CI pipeline. So we are already aware of the script, how the pipeline syntax looks like. First it starts with pipeline, followed by stages, new two spaces, stages, followed by stage, right, followed by steps, followed by script. Whatever script is there, you can just store it over here, and you can just simply close the brackets. So this is how the syntax of pipeline is, right? I am just trying to explain this multiple times because they ask in interview to write the at least the syntax of pipeline. Then they will ask you to explain any of the stages, so that I will explain it over here. Now the moment you start the pipeline, here you can define as agent. Now here we will be running it on any agent, so here I will define it as agent any. Also here in this space you can add environment. Environment is where you will be defining the variables. So let's say you will be using some variables. Those variables, let's say you are using some variables inside your pipeline. Those variables you can define in inside environment. So here basically I'll be using one variable only, that is Dockerhub. Let's say Dockerhub username, that I will be needing. Uh, let's say this is my Dockerhub user. This is like Nasir. If you want to define any variables, you can define it over here, right? So this is the section wherein you can define the variables. If you are using some variables inside your script, you can define it inside this variables block. So coming back to our script, so this is how we are started with pipeline agent any, and here we are defining the variables. So Docker username I'll be using. This is anyways not required, but still I'll just put it here. Then next step what we are going to do is we will be doing the cleanup. So we are already aware that before running the pipeline, it is always suggested to clean the previous workspace. So what will happen is there are files that will get created after every build, after every pipeline gets built. So it is always recommended to clean up the previous folders and all to avoid bugs and all. So this is a standard step that we follow inside this. This is the stage one. This is the first stage. The next stage what we will do is we will clone the code that is there in our GitHub. Now let me just go back to my GitHub, and I have just stored some code inside this DevOps project. So here we have a code. Okay, so this is our code, and this code I've just stored it so that we can use that code, and we can just push, or we can create a .jar, right? So here you can just go to the sorry go back to your demo or DevOps project. So here you can see that your code is present here, JavaScript code and all. So this repository I'll be needing. So for that what we need to do, this is the repository where I'll be storing the code. So developers, let's say they have pushed a code on GitHub, and that code you will be needing to do the testing, building, and then integration testing, and then you will be creating an image and you will be pushing it to Dockerhub. So what you need to do, just go to code and just copy this, and then you just need to paste it inside your step. This is the step wherein we will be needing to clone my GitHub repository. So what is the step stage 2, that is clone GitHub repository. What are the steps? And this is the step: running a shell script, git clone followed by the URL, git URL. So this is what I have mentioned in this step. If it is a private repository, then for that you will be needing to use the GitHub credentials, and you will be needing to mention the branch name and then the URL. So if you are using a private repository, then you will be needing to use the GitHub credentials. So now since it is a public repository, let's not go there. Now the third step is Maven unit testing. So we have already seen that there are multiple different units of your code, and these individual units of the code needs to be tested. Okay, so let me just tell it here. So first what we will be doing is we will be doing a cleanup of the old workspace. Then next what we'll be doing is we will be doing the git checkout. So whatever code that you have inside git, that we will be pulling it from the GitHub. Then the third step is Maven unit testing. What is unit testing is, whatever your code will be there, there will be multiple units of that code, so that every individual units will be needing to test. After that what we need to do is we will be needing to do the Maven build. So Maven build will convert the code. What it will do is it will convert the code into an executable file. In our case it is .jar. After that what we need to do is we will be doing the, after the build is done, we will do Maven integration testing. What is an integration testing? Maven integration testing, what it will do, it will test the different, so we have tested the multiple units, it will test the integration across these units. So it will just test the different integration across these units. So when we are doing this Maven part, obviously we will be needing the Maven tool, right? So that is the reason why we have installed Maven inside our Jenkins server. Along with that, we will be needing one important file which is called as pom.xml. So this file is provided by developers. Pom.xml is nothing but it is project object model. We don't need to go in more depth, but this is the model which defines which where like which what this code needs to be changed to which executable file, like .jar or .var or .ear. So that will be defined in this pom.xml file. So don't go in more depth. So this will just define how what kind of file you will be needing, what output you will be needing from this code. So that is provided by the developers. After Maven integration testing, what we will do is the next step is, after this all the different units of this codes have been testing, what we will do is we will do a Docker build. So to do a Docker build, we will be needing a Docker file. Correct, we will be needing a Docker file so that it will convert that .jar to an image. It will convert all that code into an image, right? So for that, what we will be needing is we will be needing to do the Docker build. So Docker build is used to just convert it into an image. We have already seen this in Docker. After that, what we will do is we will do Docker tag. Now generally what happens is there is a standard naming convention that is followed in Dockerhub. The standard naming convention is the username followed by the repo name, or let's say followed by the project name, followed by the version. In, let's say it is v1. So this is a standard naming convention that is followed. So whenever we do Docker build, we can give any xyz name, right? Let's say I'm given it as like my image something I've given. Let's say my image one. This is the name I've given, but this is not a naming convention that is followed. The standard naming convention for Docker Hub is this. Now you may be thinking, why can't we do this while building the image? That is not how it is done. We will first build this image with a normal name, then we will convert that name to some standard name. After that, what we will do is we will do the Docker Hub login. We will log in inside our Docker Hub account, and then what we will do after login is done, we will push the image to Docker Hub. So your image will be stored inside your Docker Hub repository. For this, obviously, we will be needing Docker Hub account, username, and password, right? Docker Hub username and password. This we have already stored inside our credentials, Jenkins credentials. After the um, sorry, one step I have missed here over here. After the image is built, what we need to do is we need to scan the image for any vulnerabilities. Scan the image. So image scanning is done for for any vulnerabilities. If there are any errors with that image and all, that needs to be scanned, and that is done with the help of a tool called as Trivy, and that is the reason why we have already installed Trivy as well. Next step is Docker tagging. Next step is Docker login and pushing the file to Docker Hub. So that again, let's jump back to the code. So here what we are doing is Maven unit testing. The command for unit testing is m1 test. Okay, and before which like before running this command, we need to define which directory it needs to do the unit testing. So that is the reason why we have defined this directory. This is the same directory here, right? This is the same directory. So what we need to tell is we need to tell Maven that we have to first go inside this directory, and after that we need to run this command Maven test. This command is used for unit testing. After that, what I told is we need to do the Maven build. Again, we need to go inside this directory, and the command to do Maven build is Maven clean install. It is actually only install, but as a standard practice, the previous artifacts needs to be clean. That is the reason why it is written as mvn clean install. So this is the command to do the Maven build. Now the next step is Maven integration testing. After the Maven build is done, we need to check the different integration of the different units of the code. So for that, the command is mvn verify. So after building the code, what we need to do is we need to do the integration testing. So for that, the command is mvn verify. So just remember these commands. Sometimes they ask in interview, what is the command to do in unit testing? That is mvn test. What is the command to do Maven build? That is mvn clean install. And what is the command to do integration testing? It is mvn verify. Just remember these commands. After the verification is done, after the build is done, what we will do is we will do the Docker image build. We need to do the Docker image. Now for that, we will be needing a Docker file. Okay, so that Docker file we will be needing to define how that image, where that image is stored, sorry, where that build file is stored, and from that build file we need to create a Docker image. So for that I have already written a Docker file. This is a Docker file. Just copy it and let me just store this somewhere else. So I have written a Docker file for that. This is the Docker file. So what it will do, it will just pull this open JDK image. It will go inside this directory. This is the working directory. From that it will just pull out whatever the code is. So in our case it is like, let's say, star dot whatever the name followed by star dot jar. Okay, it will just pull out that code and it will just do the java hyphen dot jar app dot jar. This is the command which is used to do the convert that app.jar file. So this is how Docker file is written. So the next step that we have used is to build the image from that. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using an open JDK image. We'll be using that .jar file and we'll be creating that image, Docker image. Now after the Docker image is created, we need to give it a name. So this is the standard naming convention that we follow. Now while giving the name, this is an Jenkins environment variable. If you want to check that, I'll just show you. So you can just anytime you can just come here on this page and you can check the global variables of Jenkins. So this is what the variable is, job name. What it does, it pulls out the name of the project of this build. Now in our case the project name is CI/CD pipeline. This is the project name, right? Now this is in capital letter. Now uh, whenever we push any images through Dockerhub, the image name has to be in small letters. It has to be in a lower case. So for that, what we have done is we have first you use another variable wherein we have pulled out the Jenkins standard global variable, and what we have done is we have converted the whatever name is there to lowercase. Because what happens is, see, either you can just create your Jenkins pipeline using lowercase, but sometimes if we miss out that part, we can always just name our Jenkins project in lowercase. That can also be done. That practice can be we can follow, or else we can just do one thing. We can just give a freedom to give any name in any case, and we can just convert that to a lowercase, and then we can just add that variable over here. So what we are doing is we are just tagging the image. So previously we had just build the image with this name. This is the job name. This is the job name followed by the build number. So the build number is also a Jenkins global variable. So if you just go here, just check for build number, you can see here this is also Jenkins variable. What will do, it will do is whatever current existing build is there, that build it will take and it will just tag it as a build number. So now what will happen is my Docker file, it will create an image with the name CI/CD pipeline colon 1. This is the name that it will create. Now what I will do is I need to convert that CI/CD pipeline colon 1 to some different name. This is the Docker username. This is what I will be using. This is my Dockerhub username followed by the project name, followed by the project name, that is slash job, followed by the build number. Now, rather than simply writing build number, I will be writing v1, v2, v3 like that. So that is the reason I have used v here. Now, what I will be doing, I will be doing two things. I will be converting into a version, and that version I will be calling it as latest. I will be calling that version as latest. So this will get converted into v1 and latest. The next, for the next build, it will get converted to v2 latest, v3 latest. So, and the old previous latest files will get deleted. They will get overwritten. Latest will always overwrite the previous latest files. So let's say if we have created v3, then v3 will be treated as latest. We have created v4, v4 will be treated as latest. This is how the Docker tag is done. Then what we will do is we will scan the image for any vulnerabilities. So for that the command is Trivy image followed by the image name. This is our image name. And what we will do after the scanning is done, we will store it in some file. This is called scan.txt. We will store the result, we will store the output inside some file called as scan.txt. The next part is to log into the Dockerhub and push the image to Dockerhub. Now here we have used something called as with credentials. Now how do you use this? Let's say I want to use some credentials I want to use some credentials which I have stored inside Jenkins. So for that what you need to do is use this. After you go inside this CI/CD pipeline, let's say this is your job, you can use this option called as pipeline syntax. Just click on it, and here you will find multiple options. Let's say I want to use the credentials. Here just scroll down, it will you will find an option called as with credentials. Just click on it and just add the credentials that you have. So in our case it is username and password, right? Username and password. So I'll just tick that option and I'll select this my Dockerhub. This is already selected, right? Now what variable that you want to use in your pipeline script? So for that I have already used a variable called as Docker password and Docker username. Sorry, these are separated. So just go to add, just use username and password separated. Now what is the variable you want to give to your username? I have given this Docker user as a username. Let's say this is my username, and let's say this is the variable for password. Okay, then just go and generate pipeline script. It will give you something. This is the block that I have used. Just copy this block and paste it over here. So this is a process how if you want to use credentials inside Jenkins, first you need to generate that using the pipeline syntax generator. Just define your own variables that you want to use. Just use this and just generate the pipeline script. It will also tell you how to use the pipeline block also. See, this is how it will just tell you. No need to worry about this. We will be just needing this step. With credentials, username, password, and this entire thing, it will get generated using the pipeline script. That is what I have pasted over here. Again, I have logged in to Docker using this defined variable username. This is my variable that I have defined. Docker login -u username -p password. Okay, then again I have just converted the job name to lowercase. Again I have just pushed the Docker username followed by the project name followed by the build number and same latest. Now what happens is whenever we create images in our server, those images will get stored inside our server. So this for that we need to clean the older images. We don't want the images to be stored in our server. These images needs to be stored pushed to Dockerhub, and whatever images that I have in my server needs to be deleted. Okay, it is always a standard practice to once you have pushed your images to Dockerhub, you need to delete all those images. So for that the command is docker image clone -af. This command also we have already seen in Docker session. This is the command used to clean the Docker images. If you want, I can just comment out this and I'll just show you what will happen if we keep on pushing the images. So what we will do is we will just use this pipeline script, and just for time being let me just comment out this part. To comment out, just use 2 forward slashes. I just want to show you that how these images will be stored in your local server. this part I'm commenting out. Step number 10 I will be commenting out, and just copy this entire script. Go to your pipeline, go to your CI pipeline, and go to configure, and just paste the script at the bottom. Just scroll down, just scroll down, and here just paste your script, and just hit on save. Now what we will do is we will just click on build now and see what will happen. And if we get any errors, we will resolve them one by one. Now here you can see one error, we have one error has occurred. We'll just go check what that error means. Just scroll down, search for something called as error. Here you can see it is telling that whenever it is trying to run this ambient test, where is that ambient test? Whenever it is trying to run this ambient test, it is showing that the command not found, that the ambient command is not found. Why are we getting this error? Because in our Jenkins server we have not installed Maven. If you remember, I told you Maven we will be installing later on. So what we will do is we will install Maven here quickly. Now this is where the Maven is, or what I will do is I'll use it from here only. This is where I stored, right? This is what we need to install. Okay, so for what we will do is we'll just copy entire thing, and we'll go to our Jenkins server. We will create vi maven.bash, paste the entire thing, escape colon wq, sudo chmod a plus x maven.bash maven.bash. Now this Maven will get installed. Now it will also ask me to select which Java version I want. I will select that manually. Now here you can see there are around 1, 2 and 3 Java versions. What we need to do is we need to select Java 8. So where is Java 8? This is 1.8. This one. I want the version number 3. Just select 3. Enter. Here also select 3. Enter. 1.8 I want here. Okay. Now let's do clear and let's run mvn something, mvn some command. Just run and check if mvn is installed or not. So we are getting error, that means mvn is installed anyways. We should you can see if I run mvn hyphen version, it is showing Apache Maven 3.5 is installed. Let's jump back to our pipeline and go to our pipeline and hit on build now. Now this stage should not get an error because we have already installed Maven now. Now this is just the CI pipeline, continuous integration pipeline. You can see this, all these stages are getting executed, wherein workspace is getting cleaned up, GitHub is getting cloned, Maven unit testing, Maven build, Maven integration testing is done. Then Docker image scan and this Docker image tag is done, and this Trivy image scan is also done, and here Docker image push is also done. Now if you want to see this, go to your console output, just click on this tick, green tick, just see the full log. You will be able to see the entire log that has happened. Here you will see the all the logs step by step. So whatever steps that we had mentioned, all those logs you will be able to find it over here. Now I told you after Maven build is done, it will convert it into a jar file, right? So here you can see this .jar has been converted. Let's just scroll down. So all the complete log you will be able to find over here, and even if you are getting any errors, you will be able to find it over here only. So generally you can just control F and do the errors. I am just checking whether I will be able to see the stages and all. Here you can see the stages mentioned. So this stage is followed now. Maven build. So after this clean install is done, and what it will do is it will just convert it into jar file. Right. This is what has done. So now we can see here in this location your jar file is stored with the name snapshot.jar. Right. This is the location where your jar file is stored. If you want to see that, just duplicate this and I'll just show you. Just go to your pipeline, select this particular build number, and go to your workspaces. So just go inside this and go to DevOps project, target. Here you can see your .jar file is been saved here. This is what it has mentioned. Just let's move ahead, and that jar is created. The next step is Maven integration testing. Okay, so it is scanning for projects. It is doing the integration testing. The next step is Docker image build. So what it is doing is, you can see here Docker build -t. My project name was in capital. It was in upper cases. That is CI/CD pipeline. What is that? It has done. It has converted into lowercase. That is the reason why we had added that one step. Just remember that. Okay, now what it is doing, it is running the docker file. Okay, and after that it will just convert it into a docker image. Okay, now it has tagged it as CI/CD pipeline colon 2. That is why 2, because the build number is 2. We had used that Jenkins this way environment variables, right, build number. So that is the reason why it has stored it as 2. If you just rerun the pipeline, it will be stored as 3, 4, 5, like that. Image tag, see, previously the name was docker ci pipeline colon 2. Now we have we have converted into a standard name, that is Nasir Patel slash forward slash ci pipeline colon 2. Now if you want to see whether this image is been pushed or not, we will see that, but because this is just an image tag stage, we will see that. Now here you can see Trivy image scan. What it is doing, it is scanning the image for any vulnerabilities. So it is scanning, it has scanned the images and all, and what it has done is it we had told it to store it in some scan.txt file, right? So we'll go back inside the DevOps project and we'll go to target. Okay, we'll go to DevOps project. We'll go one level up. Let's go back to workspaces, go over here CI pipeline, and here you can see before the DevOps project one file has been created. It has been created now. Now this is a UST time, don't worry. This has been created now. Just click on it and you should be able to see the scan report of Trivy. This has the scan report has been generated in a txt format. So you can just copy this and just send it to your team who will be needing the image vulnerabilities detail. Let me just close this. This is where the Trivy scan is done. Next step is docker image push. So here you can see, here it has docker login -u username. I did not mention username Nasir Patel like that in my file. If you can see here, I have mentioned docker username. So what it has done is it has just checked what is the docker username. This is the environment variable that I have stored over here. This is the docker username. It has just pulled that docker username, which is Nasir Patel. You can see here, this is how it has done the login. And -p password, it has not stored the password. It has stored in an it has just masked that password, right? So the password will not be shown in the output. So this is how your password are secured using Jenkins. Okay, so that is done. Now next step, what it has done is it has login to Docker and it has pushed this image. This is the image name. Now if you want to check that, what we'll do, we'll go to hub.docker.com. I'm already logged in, but in your case you need to log into your account. Just log into your hub.docker.com account and search for this particular repository and uh, project name. So in my case, you can see pushed last 8 minutes ago. Just go inside this and you should be able to see the image over here. See, this is the Nasir Patel site slash CI/CD pipeline which I had pushed 8 minutes ago. And if you just go to tags, you should be able to see the tags. So in our case, since the build number was 2, the tag will be v2, right? So let's check that. You can see v2 tag has been provided, and after that latest image is given. So now we have two images, v2 and latest. Now what we will do, we will build one more and let's see v3 and latest will be pushed or not. So we'll just quickly do that. Build now, and we'll just wait for 2 minutes for the entire pipeline to run. Now as you can see, the third build is completed. Build number 3 is completed. So what are objectives that inside this in my Docker hub I should see v3 and latest also. Let me just refresh and see. Now you can see a few seconds ago v3 and latest images have been pushed. So the moment you keep on pushing these images will get stored in Docker hub. Now one more step, if you remember, I told you whenever we push Docker images to Docker hub inside our local server, Jenkins server. So this is in a Jenkins server. Docker images will get keep on getting stored. If you can see here, previous old images also are stored. This pipeline v2 is stored. This is also stored. This is also stored. This is also stored. And you can see the size. This is around half of GB into 1 2 3 4 5 6. This is around 3 GB of storage it is taking. Although we have already pushed all these files to Docker Hub, we won't be needing all these images. So it is always recommended to clean your Jenkins server. Keep your Jenkins server, the like after these images are pushed, there is no work of these images inside your Jenkins server, or let's say in your Docker server. So for that, what we need to do is we need to add one more step inside our Jenkins pipeline to clean the images that are pushed inside a server. So for that, that is the step that I had added. That is a single command, that is docker image prune -af. -a means all, -f means forcefully. So this docker image prune -af means delete all the images forcefully. This is used to clean up the space inside your server. Let me just uncomment it. I won't be needing this line also. This one. One second. This line I'll delete. Anyways, let it be. Okay, I have uncommented this everything, and what I will do is I'll just simply run this script steps stage. What is script? I close the bracket. Steps I have. Okay, so now I have added that stage. Now let me hit build now, and here you can see these images should not be visible in my local server, in my Jenkins main server. Now you can see this last stage is completed, that is Docker image cleanup. If I go to my Dockerhub and hit refresh, I should be able to see version 2, version 3, version 4. But version 4 will only be the latest. Version 2, version 3 are the old one, right? So let's check that. So you can see this is pushed a few seconds ago. V4, that is latest. V2, V3 are still there, but that are treated as old one. This is pushed 15 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. This is how my different versions will be stored inside my Docker Hub repository. Now let's go inside our server and run this command again, docker images, and now you can see no images are shown here. Now that is the last stage that is very much important to clean up your server, because these images will be still dangling inside your inside your server. They will be just lying there unused. So it is always recommended to use the last stage, that is to clean up the docker images cleanup. Okay, so whatever docker images are stored inside your server, those will get cleaned up using that docker image cleanup stage. So now we have seen how to run the CI pipeline. The next part, that is CD pipeline, how to deploy the pipeline to Kubernetes, that we will be seeing in the next session. So by the next week, we'll be completing the next part, the later part of the project and the last module. So by next week, we'll be completing the DevOps course, and we had started in November, and I told you we will be completing before 4 months, and that is what we have done. We are completed it before 4 months only. We could have done it much earlier, but there were many vacations and I was also not there. We could have done it in 3 months. Now this has taken around 3.5 months, but that's okay. So by next week we'll be completing the next part of the project, and like in next Sunday we'll be having the last module. So now what we can do is we can just go to Terraform and just hit the command Terraform destroy. So it will just destroy all the resources that you have created. So just go back to your Terraform files and just open cmd and type code dot, and what we will do is we will just destroy the resources that we have created, so that we don't get any charges and all. So if you just moment run, you run terraform destroy hyphen hyphen auto approve, it will destroy all your resources. So this is how you can simply destroy all your resources. So we have seen the CI pipeline. In the next session, we will see the CD pipeline, and that will be completing our project. If you have any questions, then you can please ask, or else we will wrap up for today.
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll meet again in the next week, and we will just cover up the next part, that is CD part. It is a very small stage. It will be having a very small stages, but that will cover up the important part, that is deployment. Okay then guys, thank you guys.